Before heading to the video, if you haven't subscribed the channel, do subscribe it and don't forget to click the bell icon for the latest update notification. If you like the video, do like, comment and share. Stay tuned with learnbay.co. Happy learning!
How many people understand what is normalization? Means you might have used it in mathematics already, but let me just check that information anyways. So basically, each parameter value is obtained by the magnitude. So the effect or the point is if you have different magnitude, if different parameters, imagine if you have x1, x2 or x3, and if you wanted to normalize them, how would you normalize them? Come on, anyone?
So these are single column values, am I right? These are not multiple feature values.
Like in mathematics, that value divided by the magnitude of the value?
Yeah, so each parameter value or each feature value is obtained by dividing by the overall magnitude. So if you want to normalize x1, then x1 is okay, and so on. All right. So the effect of normalization is very interesting actually. It basically centralizes all of the data to origin itself. Okay. So when you divide by magnitude, what will it happen or how will it look like? So let's say initially if there are three features and this is how the data looks like. So, okay. If you apply normalizer, which is again available in sklearn pre-processing, you tend to get something like this. So if you want to synchronize multiple features together, then you should go for normalizer. If you want to do it individually, then scalar is perfectly fine. Okay. So this is what happens when you normalize things. Most values again will be from, let's say, from -1 to 1 in all the axes.
Sir, I had a question.
Yeah.
So explain. So when you're normalizing, it is not along a single feature all values. If there are like multiple values for a single feature, it's not normalizing there. You're saying if there are three different features, we can normalize across features. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but okay. One more thing. So far, I hope you have noticed this one. Each feature is a numerical one. Okay, we already are considering numericals. So there is no idea of being different here. Means they can only be different on scale or something.
What I
But
meant
all
by
of them are
different was
numerical itself.
what I meant by different was the scale could be different. Like suppose one feature is age, that can be 15 to 100 years.
Exactly.
But won't that again misproportionally suppress or boost depending upon what it is like? For example, well, but if that's the way it is, then that's the way it is. Well, I was just looking more from the point of what we learned yesterday, that if we have, let's say, age of 25 to 60 for employee, and we have, let's say something like a salary which is in starting from thousands to lakhs to crores, depending upon what you are.
Yeah.
And the crore value will anyway suppress the different age value. Age is just two numbers, crores. So I was just coming from that.
No, you are right. You are right. So basically, with with normalization, whenever you want to do this, the scale difference should not be in that magnitude. It's like a little bit scale difference. Most of
Okay.
the times, what it happens is these things are like more or less in a similar scale, but with different values. Okay, so most of them, the values will be, let's say, from 0 to 100 itself. Okay, so if you want to normalize, let's say this might have reminded you about magnitude problem or something like that. So many times what we do is we take these different vectors in all three directions or four directions. We take the magnitude and we get the unit direction, if you understand.
Yeah.
Basically, again, we are not going to go here in too big. Otherwise, as you rightly observe, that if you have salary in lakhs and crores, wherever age or experience would be like in years only. And if you were to take a magnitude, of course, it would be a disproportionate. Okay. So yeah, it usually in normalization, we do have like close enough similar ranges. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Or we use a scalar to get them into the same scale and then normalize. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be also one trick that you can do.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. There is a very simple concept called binarization, which should not be very hard. So, okay, if I say the word binarization, what do you think I mean here?
You will have binary values 0, 1, like
Yeah.
yes or
So
no, something like.
you can build up a mathematical rule, okay, where all the values can either be 0 or 1. So how would I do that?
Applying condition.
Applying condition, basically it is called thresholding actually. So you could threshold that anything negative or 0 is 0 and anything positive is 1. Okay. So basically, if you want to simulate something in Bernoulli distribution, like in case in Bernoulli Nye base, so everything has to be put in 0 or 1 only. So internally, what you can do is you can run a binarizer. So what will happen to this input actually? If I just by normal logic, what will happen to the output?
This will be 1 0 1 1 0 0. But what is the condition for 0? Because less than 0
Yeah,
is a
anything
negative. Okay.
negative and 0 is 0. Anything positive is 1. Okay, so as you can see, all the positive values have been converted to 1. Anything negative and 0 is of course 0 as it is. Anything negative has also been converted to 0. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now comes the interesting part. Now, the one thing you might have realized is so far that whatever kind of op you are doing or whatever kind of operation you are running here, so machine learning always takes actually structured data. Okay. Okay. So do you guys understand what is structured and unstructured data? What is structured data, if I may ask?
Data which is divided into rows and columns.
Yeah. So any data that is in tabular format usually is called a structured. Tabular, why I'm saying is means fixed number of rows and columns. Okay. Okay, what so far any data that you have actually seen is structured itself, okay? Like which can be, let's say, packed in a CSV, in a data set, maybe even in an array, is mostly structured, okay? Now, what is unstructured data set, or what are good examples of unstructured data sets?
Normal writing like a newspaper if I have to.
Yeah, like NLP is actually one of the classical examples of unstructured data set. Okay, so what happens is, because the length of words or how many words are there, and these words are actually different line by line or text by text. So that makes it really hard. And we will read about some basic pre-processing. Although you will have separate NLP classes where NLP kind of conversion or these things will be handled properly over there. But I will just give you a basic rundown today, like what happens with usually what we do with NLP problems. Okay. Okay. All right. So even in its structure, now we can run into a problem. So far we had assumption about numerical data. What about categorical data? Numerical data is all fine. You can do normalization, you can do scaling and binarization and whatnot. But what you will do with categorical data now? What are the types of categorical data?
Discrete data like gender.
Nominal, ordinal.
Yeah, nominal and ordinal. What are these two things, nominal and ordinal?
Ordinal is a rank. Nominal is a separate, like probably A, B, C, that way.
Yeah, I always try to remember nominal is equivalent to name. And as you just said, you can simply think as a order or rank. So now what is the problem with the nominal part? Ordinal is okay, you can handle it easily. What is the problem with the name part?
Machine can process only.
Sorry, I did
Yes.
not get it.
I'm saying machine can, if you have to find patterns, then it has to be brought down to something where patterns can be found. And
No, but both actually nominal and ordinal. Okay, remember, still they're categorical. So they both needs to be converted to numbers. Otherwise, you will not be, apart from like pure decision tree. Okay, where you just have to get the probability calculation. Almost no algorithm is going to work with these things in their pure form. So what kind of pre-processing steps should we take to handle nominal and ordinal values?
As ordinal has already rank, we can like put in that order.
Okay, very good. So as you rightly said, ordinal already has a rank. So let's just put them in order, right order. Makes sense? Yeah. What about nominal?
Well, we can like convert them into, like if it is gender, then we can 1 or 2, then we can count or something like that. But if it is like
Oh, but
name
if there's
only,
multi-classification, then sorry, if there are a lot of different categories internally, then
Can we look at mode or I mean, like frequency as the way of?
again, you don't have to do a probability calculation here, okay? You actually have to get a numeric output or representation.
might be more to just taught binarization or something like that, because finally it is converting to numbers.
No, fine. So first, ordinal, what do? We use something called label encoding. So label encoding is very simple, usually in canonical order. Okay, now this is of course sklearn. It's not that we have to do it like this. In canonical order, the numbers are assigned. So do you understand what canonical order means? It will go like ABCD, okay? Okay, so like A will get a number of 0. The initial number will start, let's say, with 0, and anything which comes first in dictionary will get the value 0. Okay, now that might not be the sequence you want to look for. Okay, but that's how sklearn does. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Then what is the other option if this label encoding means if the sklearn label encoder is not working? Then what is the other option you might have?
You can use if else.
Why if else? Like, don't you think that is a bit hard work in life? Okay, you're close enough. Basically, whatever the word is, let's say apple, maybe. Okay, you directly assign the value. Okay, you build your own dictionary actually. And by reading a key value pair, you get those numeric value outputs. Make sense?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this was ordinal. So, okay, what is a good example of ordinal actually? Let's first talk about it. Then only we will go forward. So for ordinal, what is the example you could take?
Size of Coke bottle, big, medium, small.
Yeah. So high, medium. Okay. Small. So basically, if you were to run, okay, if you were to run with these names, if you were to run label encoder in sklearn, which I just told you, so what would be the outcomes?
0, 1, 2.
Very good. 0, 1, 2. And we don't want this because usually we are expecting, so ordinals basically can be represented on a number line. So maybe small is here, medium is here, large or high is here. Okay. So if you cannot get it done through direct label encoding, you actually have to build your own dictionary to do this. Okay. So this is what ordinals are. They are ranked already, or you can think them in terms of order. And over there, you can visualize them in a number line, and where sense of greatness, greater than and less than basically exist. Okay. Small is less than medium and high. Medium is greater than small, but less than high. High is greater than medium and small. But what if I give you these kind of scenarios where, let's say I have in one column, I have a banana, apple, guava. Then how will you encode this information? Now do you see the problem here? What is the problem here? Can anyone point that out?
Sir, these three are nominal. No, these
Yeah.
they
So
are
nominal. So what is okay? So let me put it in a slightly general way. Then what is the problem with nominal values?
How to find a pattern to differentiate?
All are different categories.
All are different categories. Good answer, actually. Basically, what the fundamental problem is, you cannot represent them on a number line. Why?
There is no notion of bigger or smaller. There is no notion of comparison.
As you rightly said, they are all of just different categories. So you cannot write like, again, you cannot draw a number line and say, this is where banana is, this is where apple, and this is where guava is. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Because you cannot say that apple is greater than banana. Okay, now there could be other considerations of weights and shape. But let's say we are not going in, we are just going name basis. So, or a different employee's name. If there are different employees' name, you cannot like put them like one is greater than the other. That would not work. So over there we are stuck. So how do we handle the problem of nominal
in
values?
in this case, can we take a frequency? Like we can plot a histogram and then.
Like, no. Frequency is like, okay, it is going row by row. So again, converting them to frequency will do what for us? So basically you are saying if apple appears more, give it a higher value in number line.
Mhm.
But why? And what if all three occur equally then?
Yes, understand. It will
Understood?
not work. Yes.
All will get the, let's say if all occur 10 times in like total of 30 rows. So basically all will get a value of 10. So like what is the point? Like what? So all three are definitely not equal. If that was the case, it would have been really easy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can't do that actually. Okay, so we actually go for something called one-hot encoding. What do we do is, let's say if we have one column, let's say fruits, and you have banana, apple, guava. Basically, it is decoded into something different now. That one column is actually converted to three columns, and you can drop the first column actually. This column can be dropped later. Now it becomes like fruits, banana, fruits, apple, and fruits, guava. Now in the first row, banana is true. So it is 1, rest is 0. This is called a one-hot encoding representation. Get the idea?
So in this case, let's say we would be having 50 different rows or 50 different values.
Mm-hmm.
So that much of columns would be created.
Yes.
In that case, it would be tough to identify actually.
Identify in what sense, if I may ask?
Identify in terms of actually doing the feature engineering and all those things, or not?
Yeah, of course it can be. There could be that problem as well.
Fine.
This part is clear? What you do when you have nominal variables?
Yeah.
Okay. So to encode categorical values, there are two ideas as I just explained. First, you take ordinal values, okay? And ordinal values are basically like income, low, high, medium. If that has to be converted to numericals, it's a very simple idea. What do? You can come up with a mapping system when sklearn's own, let's say, label encoder is not going to work in your favor, okay? So you come up with your own encoding, okay? You provide them the numbers that you think are the correct representation on a number line, and accordingly all the values will be switched. Make sense? This is clear?
Yes.
Okay, now, again, as I told you, there is a transformer for this one as well. To encode nominal, first you will have to figure out, let's say, the unique ones. Okay, here it is just male and female, so it is much easier actually. And you could apply, let's say, label encoder, and label encoder will generate. So we have like created an extra column. Again, it will work for different more categories as well, but just remember it is gonna work in canonical order, or if you want to remember, it will work in work according to the occurrence in a dictionary. Okay. whichever occurs first, whichever word occurs first gets the lowest value, like 0. Like female occurs first, 0. Male occurs later in the dictionary, that's why it gets 1. It has no mathematical significance actually. That's not how you should ideally do it. And again, male and female actually should be treated as nominal categorical, not as ordinals anyways. Okay, so that is anyways wrong. So basically you will take one-hot encoding. So there is something called one-hot encoder already available. Although I think they are going to be changing this one now a bit. Okay. Okay. So what has a one-hot encoder does, or what did one-hot encoding did? Come on. Started representing male and female by 2 rows, two columns actually. And wherever male is true, it gets 1. And wherever female is true, that gets 1, and rest everything is 0. But usually, because this is like more of a NumPy structure, we don't actually would be even using this, to be honest. We will use something in pandas called get dummies. Anyone remembers what is get dummies? So this is the thing, this is the structure you have to use. So basically converts categorical value into dummy or indicator variables. So what happens is, basically it will convert things into, or whatever, if you have like multiple categories or something, you could convert them to their own category values. Okay, like this one becomes column A, column 1B, column 2A, column 2B, and column 2C. Okay, so basically it will convert them to in own one-hot encoding representation. Okay, so basically we mostly apply get dummies to create this in pandas. So even if we have this encoder, one-hot encoder, most people will actually use just get dummies in pandas to create this kind of a scheme. Okay. Okay, have you done imputation already? What does imputation means, if I may ask? So now, while we are doing this pre-processing step, now we have to remember this, that we cannot have missing values, ideally, in a machine learning algorithm. So machine learning algorithm will not be able to handle the missing value problem. So basically, you will have to impute the missing values. So how do we impute the missing values?
We had done 3-4 things. I don't know, it was imputation, but like forward fill, backward fill, average fill, mean fill, all those.
So let's just revisit that concept. If you already know that, that's actually very good.
No, not that we know. I didn't know that as an imputation. It was basically taught as a part of learning. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. It's okay. Okay, so we have something called Pooja. You have a question? One sec, guys. Okay, so how do we impute here? That's the question. Okay, so fundamentally, what is the problem with the, okay, let's stick with the basic first. Okay, sorry. So let's say you have a row called age. And let's say this is your numerical data. And if few rows are missing, let's say these things are not available. This is 23, this is 32, again 21, maybe 25. Okay. And let's say you have to fill up these values. Then how will it work out? Anyone?
Can I take a linear regression and put the value?
But regression with what exactly?
With these values, the ages?
But there need to be a y, right? If you want to regress, you need to have a y as well.
Yes.
Or x, if x is dependent on something else, then that could be the input, and this age feature could be the output. Okay. Yeah, actually that's also a kind of a technique that a lot of people use, that if they can figure out a dependency. So first you need to know independent and dependent variable. Let's say we don't have that right now. Let's go with the most simplest idea. Then how would you do it? So actually the strategies basically are different fold, to be very honest. Okay, so what are the strategies? Now basically I will give you some rules here. Look, if anything is less than like 1% or something, okay, if the missing values are less than 1%, ideally what you should do is
Mean?
no, just drop the data. Believe me, it is much easier in life not to deal with that problem at all. If it is really low, okay, yeah, so just remove the data. But again, life is not that simple all the time. But let's say anywhere between 1 to 3 or something, some percent, or 1 to 5%, then what should be your strategy? Actually, forget 1 to 5%. Actually, within 1 to 2% in numericals, you can also do something else. You could replace them with 0. Not a good strategy always, okay? But with for 1 to 2%, actually they can be replaced by 0 as well, and it would not affect that much. But actually, once you start to go even a bit higher, maybe 2% to 5%, then replacing them with 0 is not something I will really prescribe. Then what you should like 2 to 5 or 2 to 10% even for data. Here the ideas of no, Madhu, the idea is it is already either nan or missing values. You don't want to replace them with missing nan actually, okay? So here you want to go with mean or median actually. Why? Yeah, basically, yeah, either take average value or take the median value. So in this range, or even some people will actually extend this range, same thing to 2 to 10% of data. Maybe you can stick with this approach. Okay, mean and median itself. After 10%, what you should do?
Might we do what Saurav said? Look for a linear regression dependable variable.
Yeah, so 10 to 20%, ideally a person should look for dependent variables or historical data. If same records are available or something similar is available, you can infer from that as well. Okay. So, but after 30%, let's say somehow it is more than 30% itself. If more than 30% is missing, then what you should do? Any idea?
Commonsensically, I would say look for whether that feature is important, where
Yeah.
there things are missing. Otherwise, otherwise realign the sample and say sample is 70% of the value.
Yeah, basically, if 35% data is missing in one column, in that particular column, you should ideally start thinking about dropping the whole column itself. Maybe that might induce more error than accuracy that it will even bring with it. Now, again, of course, you are right. It might be a very important variable. So again, dependent variable historical data ideas still remain over there. We are not saying that you should completely ditch that idea. But at some point, it is easier to say that maybe the accuracy increase is not going to be that much anyways, and we are going to put a lot of effort in collecting this data point. So ideally, whenever it goes beyond 35%, I usually choose to drop the column itself. Because if there is no direct correlation with any dependent variable, let's say, any other variable that is present, and I cannot seem to find any kind of correlation, then even replacing them with mean and median is not going to actually work out very well. Okay. And of course, you cannot just replace them with zeros. And because they are 35% of data, you cannot kill 35% of rows. Okay, that will be too much of a data loss right now. So what we do is we keep the rows as it is. We just drop that column itself. Make sense? So basically here I should write data rows actually. Make sense? So there are different strategies that we use. There is not a one strategy, but for most people I have seen, at least in numerical, they replace with mean, median, and yeah, if it is categorical, then you can replace with mode itself. Okay, that option is also available. So what do we use in sklearn to actually handle all of this? Now, actually, the correlation thing is something that you will have to build on yourself, but usually we have something called simple imputer these days. So again, here we have information, and basically it just simply tells you that to replace the missing values. So how do you figure out? There could be multiple ways to figure it out. It could be a number, string, and nan, which is kind of default, or none. There are multiple strategies. So one is mean, other is median, one is most frequent, which is just mode itself, and constant, which usually where you can fill it with 0 or some numerical value altogether. And once you choose constant, you will have to tell it what to fill it with. Do you want to fill it with 0 or some value that you think is going to be most probable over there? Okay, so we are going to use that. Unfortunately, in this code, I have, sorry, not this one. I've used the previous imputer. Now, this is not how it actually looks. Now it is going to get actually deprecated. So we are ideally one should use simple imputer. The function looks same. It is not very different. So the only major thing you have to worry about is strategy. Like you have to give like what strategy to use here. Sorry. So you have to tell you are going with mean, median, most frequent, or constant. If you have constant, then you have to provide fill value as well. Okay. And you can impute any kind of missing values, though that might be present with the data set.
One question.
Yeah.
What is the difference between fit and fit transform?
Fit is kind of training. Fit transform will transform the data. Means it will actually make changes in the data array or the data pandas data frame that you're providing.
Okay. So fit transform will return you the data structure, and fit will not return anything. It will just
fit can return you the object. Fit can return you the object, but basically it kind of trains the model. Okay.
Okay. Right.
All right. Okay. Now there is something called polynomial features, which I will be explaining you. Okay, so basically the idea is, okay, in Python, in sklearn, there is nothing called polynomial regression, you know. There is just linear regression. There is nothing called polynomial regression. But if you wanted to do polynomial regression, how would you do it? Come on, anyone? So the idea is, okay, so do polynomial regression. The idea is, again, as I just told you, there is nothing called polynomial regression. But in sklearn, we have something called polynomial features, which converts your data into polynomial or higher order features. Now, how does it does it is very interesting actually. Let's say you have two initial columns A and B, okay? They have their own values. Let's say we want to convert them in polynomial features of degree of 3. So what it does is, let's say if you were to perform fit transform. So this is, let's say, A and B. So what does it does is, it converts them to higher order function basically. Okay. So this is, let's say, your A to power 0. You can imagine like it that. This is your A to power 1 and this is your B to power 1. Now this, what is the next one? This is your A squared. Because degree is 3, so I have to go till degree of 3 actually.
So A square is again 1, 1, 1, 1. No.
Sorry, what?
If I take A, that is A1.
What are you saying?
No. Fine. Yeah.
This is power. This is not A1. This is A to power 1, A B to power 1. Okay.
Okay.
Original columns are here. You can see that. So can you tell me what is this one? What is this column now? This is A dot B actually. Okay. Now what is this one? B square. This is A cube. Now what is this one?
A square B.
A square B.
B square A.
AB square, yeah.
AB square, let's call it. B cube.
B cube.
Okay, so it does the whole expansion starting from A to power 0, and it will take your the whole all the A1, A squared, A cube, whatever. If you put degree 5, it will become even bigger now. So why to do this? Okay, actually, let's ask that question. Why to do this?
Maybe to kind of assign a weightage on parameters or
Not
features.
the weightage part. That's not the trick here. Okay, let me explain that. What is really going to happen?
So in the linear regression, sorry.
You will run linear regression.
What I'm saying is that in the linear regression, these will be a different, not linear, and that will become polynomial because if you add, then it will be theta 1 of A naught plus theta 2.
But the treatment will remain as it is. So sorry, not y. So you have this theta 1 plus theta naught. Okay. So you had, let's say, only one feature, or let's go with the same example. Theta 1a plus theta 2b plus some theta naught, right? This is, let's say, your equation right now. So, okay, if you can't do one thing, you can do another thing. Okay. So rather than directly taking a polynomial regression idea, what you could do is you could generate a lot of different columns. Okay. Let's say this column is a to power 1. This is b to power 1. This column is a squared. Okay. And now treat them as individual features. Okay. Now, of course, you will have high correlation internally. So now you can think them as this one as theta 2 as B, theta 3 with a square, theta 4 with a dot b, plus theta 5 with b squared. Let's just stick till b part, okay, and maybe theta naught with a naught, okay. Now what will happen if the regression is run successfully? Let's say the original equation was something
All
like,
the theta values will get.
sorry, what?
Oh no, I was just answering the question you asked. Like all the theta values will get replaced. Will get values for all the thetas.
Okay, okay. If this is the original equation, then what will happen right now? If the regression works successfully, that's what my question is.
Theta 3 will be 5, and theta 4 will be 7.
So
All
here,
the
if I were to look at it, so the terms which are, let's say, not exactly there, these thetas will reach close to 0. Agree? This will reach close to 5. This theta 4 will reach close to 7. Again, this will become 0, and this theta 0 will become close to 5. Make sense? Do you see that we are getting the same equation back? If the regression runs successfully, given that regression is running successfully, then this term gets eliminated, this term gets eliminated, this term gets eliminated.
But one point, sir. So, and making sense, but then if the features increase, then this can just blow up into so many things.
Yeah, it can. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, it will. And later so this is the basis of understanding regularization after all. At some point in optimization, we will study about regularization. And this is the basis that at some point it can become so big or so complex, the curve might really start to overfit as well. Okay. So we will see what to do over there as well. Okay. Okay. So this is how you achieve polynomial regression in sklearn. You basically convert your data into polynomial features and pass those polynomial features to your linear regression, and it will basically perform polynomial regression. Actually, there is a good example which I can give you here, and this will actually be relevant in SVM as well. So, okay. Let's say you live in a sine-shaped curve, sine-shaped world actually. Okay. So a straight line in that world would look how in our regular world?
Sinusoidal.
Okay. Everyone get this idea what he just said? Let's say this is your world now. This is in which you live actually. So you can imagine it as a sheet, okay, which is bending in a sinusoidal curve for now. Okay. And let's say if there is a straight line, if let's say this is like a road divider in that world. Okay. Now in that world, actually this is a straight line. Can you see that?
Yeah, in that world it's straight.
Yeah, that's a straight. But when you bring it to our world, it will look like curve, or maybe even in normal roads actually. Let's say imagine you cannot feel the curve or something, and the road is like this. Okay. And you are driving your vehicle and like following or you are sticking to the middle divider actually. Okay. Which is the lane separator actually. Okay. So when you drive on the road, and let's say if you're not looking anywhere outside, let's say, what do you feel? Wouldn't you feel this lane divider is exactly straight?
Yes.
Exactly. But from a different perspective, it looks different. So the trick is basically, now you were imagining a world like this and you were running a linear regression. What if this world or this page, imagine this as a page, okay? I take this page and I bend it according to my will. Okay, I bend it like a parabola. It might not look like a parabola, but this is what I'm trying to do. So, okay, if you were to run a linear regression and find a linear line in this curve, how will that curve look like? Actually, sorry, let me delete this. Let me draw it again, okay? Let's say you have converted your data, or you have taken that sheet of paper and folded it in a polynomial order, okay? Now, if you were to run a linear regression here, okay, this line is what now exactly?
In that space, it is a straight line.
Yes, very good. In that space, it is actually a straight line. You're right. But when you will fold it back, or when you will project it back to, let's say, your normal 2D space, then what you will see?
It's a parabola.
Yes, very good. It's a parabola. Makes sense to everyone, or some kind of a non-linear shape? So this is what will also come in SVM, which is really very tricky actually to understand. But if you understand it like this, it is not very hard to kind of wrap your head around it. That sometimes maybe you do not do the hypothesis. Of course, you are doing the hypothesis thing, but rather than constructing that hypothesis, why don't we just bend the data or like pre-process the data? You can think it like this, that now we have a lot of features like A, B, C, D, E, but C is A squared, D is A dot B, and E is B squared. Okay, this is A, of course, and this is B. And maybe we have a A0, which basically gets multiplied. So this is gonna be 1. Okay, so you have large number of set of features, and basically you assign your thetas, theta 0, theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, theta 4, theta 5. And you imagine them as a equation for y, some kind of output of y. So another axis. But what really has happened, does anyone realize this? What did you just do? Of course, you increase the dimension first of all. So rather than just taking 2 dimensions, so imagining everything in 3D. So here is A and here is your B. And maybe this was your Y. Now, what did you just do if you make this kind of equation?
You added the dimensions A square, A dot B, B square.
Exactly. Now, but what is A squared, if I may ask? Like, what is A squared genuinely? If compared to, forget everything else right now, forget Y and, forget B or anything, okay? Imagine there was just 2 things, Y and A, okay? This was your normal scenario. This is like a sheet of paper, okay? Now, if you were to add an axis of A squared, what will happen? Okay, imagine if there was a line called Y is equal to A. So this was the line, agree?
That is going to be exponentially high. Like
but think now, I'm just trying to make the connection for everyone here. What its projection is going to look like in A square?
A parabola.
Very good. A parabola.
On the A square plane, it will be a parabola. Yeah.
Yeah, you are right. You means okay, I can basically connect it anyways. So basically we are saying Y is equal to A square. Sorry, actually you are right here.
It is something like the sigmoid projection, right? As in,
you are right. Sorry, my bad. So yeah, if I were to project this line or somehow A values on A square, what will happen? So let's say wherever it is 1, it will remain 1 here as well, okay? But let's say if this is 2, what will be the projection here? It will actually be somewhere on 4. So you can imagine, basically it will start to look like this. Get the sense?
basically, sorry.
Actually, I think the angle is all wrong here. Actually, it should look like this.
So basically what you're saying is when I look at YA perpendicularly, then I should see a straight line. When I look at A square perpendicularly, I should see a parabola. That's
Exactly.
All right.
Okay. Because then change in A square is actually much faster than compared to A. So the angle should actually look like this. Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is basically what I'm trying to say. So basically what I'm also trying to say here is that when you applied A square, it is almost like you took the sheet, you took this sheet, normal sheet, and then you fold it into a very non-linear way. Okay, because A square to Y, what is the correlation? Let's say
Parabola.
so. Basically, you will see that what you have just done here is you have just folded your sheet into a parabola. And over there, maybe it was line in y is equal to a. Now this line which you will regress will again in this space it will look straight, okay? But at the end of the day, if you were to again plot it back to a normal scenario, you will start to find it has become like this. And this is how you have achieved a polynomial regression. Make sense?
Sir, idea is there, but if there is some real example, then it would be much clearer to visualize.
That will come, don't worry, that will come a bit later because we will, this is touched in linear regularization actually, okay? That basically we perform a polynomial regression over there. And then we see there is a problem of overfitting because it literally goes hand in hand, okay? So there is something called lasso regression and Riz regression that we have to cover. So we will cover this, but I just want, even in actually forget everything, it will be actually a bit more clear in the SVM itself. Okay, in SVM we do apply this something similar like this, and over there you will see that example of being it true. Now the biggest problem is because it is going to be in multi-dimensional, you will not be able to see the outcome at all. It is very hard to see how did that surface really become what it is or what it is being shown over there. Okay, but don't worry, we will have to see these examples because only either you do multiple straight lines, okay, or you do polynomial curve to achieve a nonlinear classification. Okay, with single line, you cannot do a nonlinear classification. So at some point you have to start thinking about these things, that how do we achieve a polynomial curve or at least polynomial separation between these multiple classes or two classes even. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this is clear what polynomial features achieve. Okay, wonderful. Now you can make your own functions as well. Okay. You could convert something into something of a Python function into a function transformer within SQL preprocessing. And let's say you could apply that as well. So basically what you could do is you could define a function called mapping. Okay. And function transformer, you provide mapping and this will become your custom transformer. Now for any age that whatever you want to change and whatever the counter you want to change, immediately if you were to apply, let's say if this is the original data, okay, you just apply custom transformer, whatever the name of the object you have written, transform df, and the age and the counter will be immediately updated. So you could make your own mathematical changes if something is not written already, or if there doesn't exist a predefined function. you can write your own predefined your own function and convert it to a custom transformer to make it work or to make it work with it. Okay.
So can you go to the function? What was the function defined? I'm just trying to understand this.
Custom transform. Oh, you want to see the mapping function?
Yeah, no, just the map function. Okay, sure. Thanks.
It is basically whatever the age counter, X counter is over there into 2. Okay. And that was the previous one is +2.
Yeah, got that. Thanks.
Okay, all right.